Hey, welcome back to yet another Fret Again tutorial on the channel. Today we're looking at Dermot, See Yourself in My Eyes. It's got a really nice piano progression and it kind of goes like this. So I'm going to teach you how to play these chords and also how to jam along with these chords, improvise some cool things on the right hand, and we're going to take a look at how to do that. Okay, so let's get into the chords. Firstly, with the right hand, create the C major triad and second inversion, okay? This is the chord that we're playing here, C major. That's root position C major. Second inversion is the same chord, but it just means that the fifth is on the bottom, okay? So that's what we have here. That's the first chord, and then in fact, for the second chord, we're gonna play exactly the same shape, and then for the third chord, we're gonna add our second finger onto B to actually give us a C major 7, okay? That B note is the 7th of C major, right? Because it's a half step away from C, right? And so we get a C major 7 chord. And then, for the fourth chord in this progression, we're just going to be moving the pinky down, or not moving the pinky down, but having the fourth finger play D to give us a G major shape, okay? So this is what we have. It's really simple, right? We're not doing much with the right hand. But when we change the left hand root note, we get some interesting chords, right? So firstly, we have our root, our left hand on an F, okay? And that gives us this really nice chord. Wouldn't you agree? This is a really nice open sounding chord. One of my favorite chords. And then we go to an A, which gives us an A minor 7. Sorry, I didn't explain the first chord. This is an F major 7 sus2, okay? If the thumb was to be on A here, this would be a standard F major 7 chord, but instead of being on A, the third, it's on G, the second. So that's why it's an F major 7 sus2. This is an A minor 7 chord, right? That thumb on G is the minor 7th extension. If it was on A, this would just be a standard A minor triad. And this is what we do to turn it into a minor 7th chord, is lower that root a whole step to give us the minor 7th extension. And then the root goes down to G, and remember we add that second finger on B. This is what we have. This is just an interesting chord. I would call this a C major 7 over G. And then lastly, we have the root going down to E, giving us an E minor 7, okay? So this is what we have. Chord 1, chord 2, chord 3, chord 4. It's a really beautiful progression, okay? So that's how you play it. Now, let's talk about the rhythm of these chords really quick. So the right hand chord actually comes in on the and of 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and... Sorry, the and of 2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Okay, that's quite important. It basically creates a sense of syncopation in the rhythm, right? It's all a matter of counting the ands, right? And this would be a good exercise, actually. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... The exercise is that you actually vocalize this, like you announce these beats, because that's how you can really internalize it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then pick up the pace. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and stomp your foot as well to get a sense of the beat in terms of like having this feeling like you're playing the kick drum. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Okay, and then eventually you're going to get to the point where you can just like intuitively know how the bar is structured in terms of the beats and the ands, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1. So that's how you play this piano progression. Let's take a look at another way that you can play it, which I think is quite effective, which would be to play this ascending arpeggio pattern where you play the root 5 octave and then the right hand goes like this. Right? Now what's happening here is that this left hand arpeggio is catching the 1 and 2 and. Do you see that? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So this is what we have. So that sounds great. That's definitely a really cool thing that you can do, okay? So that is the piano progression covered, essentially. That's how you play it. Now, as I promised, I said I was going to show you how to improvise over this. So firstly, let's keep that left hand arpeggio going, just so that we have a kind of engine in the left hand. So this is what we can do, right? We can come back down. Root 5, octave 5, root 5, octave 5. There on F, on A. Exactly the same pattern and movement on G. And then on E. So that's kind of like an engine, right? I describe it as an engine because the arpeggio as a technique kind of works in that manner. It creates a lot of momentum and movement in the music, okay? Just as one other thing that you can do if you want it to feel more static is that you could just hold the octaves, right? And that's gonna feel less momentous, like it's a little bit more static. It depends what kind of vibe you're after, you know what I'm saying? Right, so that's option 2. And then option 3 would be to play the triads or the chords. So F major triad, A minor triad, G major triad, E minor triad. Do you see that? So that's another thing that you could do. Okay, so there are 3 options for you as to how to play the left hand when you're going to be improvising on the right hand. Now, what are we going to do with the right hand? We're going to be using the C major pentatonic scale, which consists of the notes C, D, E, G, and A. 5-note scale, right? Because then from A it goes back up to C, and then it descends back. Okay. So the way that I teach this in all of my tutorials that cover the pentatonic scale is to just familiarize yourself with the notes if you're new to the scale. So you can do that by literally practicing the scale with the root notes of this progression, like this. So as you can see, I'm playing the root notes of this chord progression, but I'm literally just going up and down this scale. So that's the first thing that you can do, and then you can break into 2 octaves, which means that we would go up this pentatonic scale all the way up to here and then back down. Okay, now this exercise is a really effective way to actually practice scales. Now, it's intended to get you comfortable with playing the notes and getting yourself familiar with the notes that you can actually play for the purpose, ultimately, of improvisation, right? That's when you take these notes within the scale and you kind of just mess around with them, like... Okay, so there I was just playing around, like going up and down and weaving around on these notes of this C major pentatonic scale, right? Now here I've just been using octaves. Let's scale that up to use the arpeggio pattern and just explore some ideas from this pentatonic scale. So everything I just played was literally from that pentatonic scale. Okay, so that is a massive hack for you right there. If you want to get started sounding really good with your improvisations, really learn and practice the pentatonic scale, and do it as I've shown you here, by connecting it to a chord progression that you actually like and that sounds good to you. Now, I wanted to finish this video off by showing you a really cool and effective device that's always going to work on these pentatonic scales, and it's this device called the grace note, which sounds like this. So with the left hand, so that sounds amazing, right? It's one of my favorite things to use on the piano, and I use it all over the place, probably a little bit too much, to be honest. And it's actually really simple. We're just using one device, okay, that works such that you've got your, let's just do it here first. You've got your second finger on G and your pinky on C, like that. And what we're doing is we're rocking from the second finger to the third finger, like that. That's the grace note. Now you can also rock back like that. Okay, so that's the device being used. Now we can use it in this position with our second on G and our pinky on C. Alternatively, we can use it in this position with our second finger on D and our pinky on G, rocking from that D to that E. And then also you can add your thumb on C there. Now what this does is, in these two positions, it's highlighting the notes of the C major pentatonic scale. Okay, so you can just kind of play around and try it in this position. Right? This position. I mean, it sounds amazing, right? You can impress so many people if you actually practice this and get this into your fingers, and then just like kind of, you know, do some improvisations. And then you can chuck this device in here and there. And then you can go back to the chord progression. And you can just play around with the song and, you know, it's gonna sound great. So that's the end of the tutorial. And by the way, a lot of this stuff I go into a lot more detail in the two courses that I've created in Keyboard Wizardry called Unlock the Keyboard Alpha and the Keyboard Wizards Spellbook. A lot of these things are covered there in a lot more detail. So if you're interested in learning this stuff, I have a lot of materials over there, and I'm working on developing a tier system, so it's going to be a lot more affordable for you if you're interested in learning this stuff and progressing to that more intermediate level on the piano. Yeah, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.